Welcome everyone to my channel, I'm B. For today's video, I bring something different. I'm gonna explain how to create this painting canvas with different pencils and different colors. Today's videos is slightly different from my previous videos. This one is all about blueprints and materials and understanding a bit of operations with materials. It's gonna be very fun. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to hit that bell button to get notifications for future videos. For this example, I have this simple scene setup. This is the canvas, which is a normal actor with the canvas mesh. And I've got over here different pencils with different colors. All of these elements are pickups. And all of them extends from my pickup basic C++ class. Let's open first the canvas. So it's just an actor with a couple of mesh to represent the canvas, nothing else. Now I'm gonna open one of the pickups or one of the pencils, and this comes from my pickup. Everything is done in blueprints in this case. I'm using the tick function to detect the heat between the pickup and the canvas. It's important to call the parent tick in this case because this comes from pickup and have some logic on the tick on the pickup parent class. First thing happens is I'm detecting if I'm using this pickup or not. And if I'm using that pickup, I call this function to detect the collision between the pickup and the canvas. It's very uncomfortable to try to test every time this in VR. So if I change this and I just use this detect heat canvas, I can test everything on the simulation mode. For that, I have this specific pickup with the physics simulation disabled. So if I press play on the simulation, I can use this to test. So this is a handy way to test things in VR. So make sure to think about ways how can you simulate logic so you don't have to put the headset on every time you want to test something quick. So I can paint, and this is very handy. Let's go back to the blueprint for the pencil. This function is the function that I use to detect if there is a collision between the pickup or the pencil and the canvas. And very simple. I need to use this line trace by profile to detect any collision between the pickup and the canvas. Important to check this trace complex, otherwise it won't work. So this is what I'm doing. I have this arrow, this one. I get the wall location of the arrow, I get the wall rotation of the arrow, then I get the forward vector, and I just multiply for a distance, and I add both elements. So that's the start location and that's the end location. Start location will be the wall location of the arrow, and the end location is on that direction, on the forward direction, plus 15. This works for me. It's not exactly, this value is not exactly something. You can put another value, depends on how close you want the collision. Next thing is to break heat results to get all of the elements from this heat. So there are lots of things, and the one that we have to take a look is the heat actor. Then we take the heat actor and we cast to the blueprint canvas, which is the canvas. So with this branch, we make sure that we are detecting the canvas. And finally, we call this function on paint visual trace line, which is inside this blueprint canvas. Now things get interesting. this function is declared on the blueprint canvas. It receives as a parameter this a paint brush, which is this element. If we open this one, we can see that we have the blueprint canvas, and important to say that the canvas contains the mesh with a collision, a simple collision. That's very important, and also the material that I'm going to use to paint. This material is an instance material which extends from basic canvas material. So if I go here, this is the instance with these two parameters, the brush stroke and the main texture. And if I open the material, the parent material, we can see inside what's going on. So here we have the main texture, which is that white board on top of the canvas mesh, and the brush stroke. This one is important. This one is the texture that I'm going to use as a render to texture with the color, the strength, and the size of the brush. So both of them are multiplied to get the final color. We take the brush stroke or the render to texture and multiply with the main texture. So from here we receive a blend between these two UV coordinates. Each pixel will have a multiply. Then we use a lerp to determine the alpha, and it will be determined by this brush stroke. So sometimes it will get this white color, and sometimes it will get the red paint or the blue or the whatever pickup we are using at that moment. So with this lerp we can get the final color between the two of them. Let's go back to the canvas. So the function is declared over here, but before that we need to do some setup. In the begin plate, the first thing we do is create a dynamic material instance from the same one. So what happens here is we need to destroy the current one and create a new one. That's important, otherwise it won't work. Next thing is to create the render to texture. I'm using this size. I haven't tried with different sizes, but this one works. And this format, which is the standard. We take a reference to that render to texture. That's over here, and we have these two parameters, which are floats, variables. And we set that parameter on the previous material that I shown. So this is the brush stroke parameter, and we send this render to texture. This render to texture is the one that I'm gonna use to modify all the time and change the size, the color, and the strength of the brush. The last step for this setup is to create an extra material instance, which is this paintbrush. I will show later how all of this works, and keep the reference. And this is important because we need to use this material in order to change that render to texture. If I go back to the material for the canvas, it's basically two layers. You know a little bit of Photoshop, you know you have layers and you can paint on top of each other. So on one side we have the main texture, which is that white board, nothing else there. And we have that render to texture that we're gonna, so on top of the main texture we'll paint. Now let's go to the function on paint visual trace line. Okay, so remember we received this, we call this function on the pencil or the pickup every frame. First thing is to keep a reference to the brush, which is the pencil. Next, we also receive the hit result, and this is very important. With that hit result, we can get the UV coordinates, so we know where we are going to paint. Next step is to break that UV coordinates to get the X and the Y axis. And this is when we send this position to the brush material instance. Next, we need to send the size as well to the material instance. Next thing is the color. All of them comes from the brush. So we use all the time this set vector parameter value to modify that brush material. Next, the strength with the same set scalar parameter and the name of the parameter. And finally, we take all of those elements and we paint on the render to texture anything that comes from that material, and all of those parameters will be painted on the render to texture. And all of that will be received by this material over here. Every tick, this material will receive all of those parameters updated. Different positions, different sizes, different colors, depends on what you're doing with that. Let's open this material. This is the material instance that extends from this one. So as you can see, we have the parameter brush color, the heat position, the size, and the strength. Okay. Let's do this step by step. So I'm going to disconnect these two elements. And I'm just going to start with the brush color, which is one of the parameters that we received on the canvas. Okay, so we take the brush material instance, which is this one. And the brush color comes from the pickup. So we send that through this brush color parameter. Okay, so we can take this node. Okay, that's the color. We need a texture to work with. Okay. This texture is anything you want, is the shape of the brush. And in my case, I'm using a type of this. You can use, for example, a circle with some alpha. Okay, we have these two. So we apply color with just a simple multiply. Okay, there. And this goes to emissive color. Before we continue, it's important to set this material as an unlit and translucent. That's important, so we can get the opacity, and it has to be unlit, so no lights affecting this. And with this, we have so everything is red because we're receiving the red color from here. We haven't applied anything yet, so obviously the whole texture is right now red. Let's apply now the strength of the pencil. So for that, we have this other param, which is just a parameter of one value. So if I click 1 and then I press, I can get the parameter with just one element. And we just need to convert that into parameter and set the name brush strength, so we can receive that from the canvas blueprint. That is right there. So set scalar parameter brush strength. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy this one, and this is going to go to the alpha channel of this texture sample, and again with a multiply. And that goes to the opacity. So the result is going to be very similar, but in this case we're applying to the texture, we're applying some elements will be with alpha 0, so we will see that shape of that texture applied, but nothing really is gonna change. So if we go to the simulation, there we go. We have the strength is huge because we still need to apply the size and the size. But we can say that we we can see that we have the shape of that texture now. Next step is to paint where we hit with the pencil. Okay, for that we need another parameter, which is the hit position. Again, we can press 2 and then click, and we will get that parameter. We need to convert to parameter and set this hit position so we can receive that hit position from the blueprint canvas. And it's the same. So we go back, we have received the hit results, we find the UV coordinates, we split that into X and Y, and we send that on the hit position parameter. And that's what we received there. But this is a parameter with all of these elements, and we just need 2 of them. We just need the X and the Y. And in this case, it will be the R channel and the green channel. So for that, we can use a node called mask, that one, and activate only those 2 channels. So this will be the X and this will be the Y. Okay, to work with this, sorry, let me copy this one, which is already prepared. Okay, let's break that into X and Y. And to work with this, we need another node with these text coordinates. This will take all of the pixels from this render to texture or from this material, and we need to subtract this position from this one. And send it to the UV coordinates. So if we test this, now we can see that we're painting from here, slightly offset to the right, but we'll fix that later. But we're painting almost on the same place that we want to, where we hit. Let's fix that problem with the offset, the hit position being in a different position that we want to. So that's very simple. We just need to apply another operation, and that's basically an offset, and we just need to move all of the pixels to the left. So for that, we just need to apply an offset of 0.5 and 0.5. So we can press 2 and then click, and then set here 5 and 5. So we have that, and apply an add operation. Connect that over there and send that, all of that. So with this, we will have the hit position in the right place. Still completely huge, but we'll fix that later. So yeah, okay. So I can move this right there, and it paints from the middle. Now, the most difficult part of this tutorial is to apply scale on all of that operations from that hit position. So, okay, we go back. We need to move all of this to the right. Okay. So this is the most difficult part to understand, but Unreal has a very handy node for that that will help us to solve this very easy, and that is scale UV by center. So just use this node and don't try to understand what is going on behind the scenes, because it's a bit complex. So scale UV by center. So we need to take the result of this, apply it there, and then apply to the UVs. And obviously we need the parameter, which is the brush size. So I'm just gonna copy this one. Okay, remember that's basically press 1 and click. So we have the param, we need to convert that into parameter, and then set brush size name. and also that comes in this one, that remember that comes from the pencil. So with this we have everything ready. Okay, now we are painting with the normal size. You want to change some of the parameters on this brush. You can go to the you can change that right here, or in this case, because we're using this blueprint, we can edit the blueprint and change the properties. For example, let's put a different color, something around that lines, and let's change that to bigger. Yeah, this should be enough. So okay, there we go. We have a bigger brush with a different color, and that's it. If you want to try this in VR with this once, you need to change the blueprint crayon, and change this and move it over there. And that's all for today's video. If you think that this video is useful, please share, subscribe and like. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye!